Good to go.
The Sri Lankan Army was formed on the 10th of October 1949, and I was one of the 10 cadets who was selected to go to Sandhurst. Sandhurst is the leading military academy, or one of the leading military academies of the world, and it's in Surrey, United Kingdom. When the army was formed, there was a nucleus of the army, which at that time consisted of the new army commander, the first army commander, the Earl of Caithness, and who had a chief of staff, Anton Muthukumaru, and two other colonels, Colonel Vijayakun, who commanded the 1st Battalion, Ceylon Light Infantry, and Colonel F.C.D. Seram, who was selected to command the 1st Heavy Anti-Aircraft Regiment of Artillery. There were also a few staff officers selected by the time before the army was officially gazetted. And one of the leading staff officers at that time selected was Colonel Willie Abrahams as staff officer in the rank of major. And the army headquarters was situated at 100 Low Lake Road, which was the former Defence Headquarters, or the CDF. It was a very, very small unit. The military hospital was across the street on Low Lake Road by the bearer. All of that place, the whole thing has vanished. Now you have Shangri-La Hotel, where all these places were there originally. The permanent secretary to the Ministry of Defence was Sir Kantaya Vaidyanathan, and he did most of the work connected with the formation of the army. In fact, all of the work. And he had a very able assistant Secretary of Defence by the name of Colin De Silva, or C.R.W. De Silva. Colin Silva was an officer in the army during the war, and he was demobbed as a captain. And after the end of the war, he passed out as a civil servant, took the competitive exam, and was a civil servant. And he was given the opportunity of helping Sir Kantaya to raise the army. So that was the base, that was the sort of nucleus of the army at that time. There were, of course, were the remnants of the old Ceylon Defence Force. Some of them were brought into the regular army as staff officers and officer staff. So basically the army was in the area of Low Lake Road, then where the present army headquarters is by the bearer, next to the old Parliament. And that was the area, and the volunteer force headquarters were in that area. There was no Hobagama, there was nothing of that sort. So the 10 of us were selected to go to Sandhurst, and I might mention their names as we go on. Dennis Pereira was one. We had Tony Yangi, myself, then we had Laurie Fernando, Justice Rodrigo, Ramanathan, Jayakodi, Anderson, Gunawardena. I think I counted 10, I'm not sure, but let me see, yes. So those were the 10 officers, so we went to Sandhurst. And we were accompanied by an officer who was also selected by the time. He was Major Roy Douglas Jathilaka, who was selected to be the officer commanding of the recruit training depot in Diathalawa. He accompanied us, and he accompanied to do a company commander's course in Warminster and some attachments in the training institutes in England. The journey to London was very interesting because it was 1949. There was no Katunayake airport. There was one, but that was the Royal Air Force one. So the civilian airport was at Ratmalana, and we took off from Ratmalana on the 3rd or the 10th. We left on the 15th, I believe. 5 days' time we were rushed off, and we went in a plane called Sky Master. It was only a 64-seater plane. It took 2.5 days to get to London. It was a small plane, but it would stop for meals at every halt. First was Bombay. We took off in the morning, Bombay for lunch, Karachi for dinner, following morning breakfast in Cairo. Then we had lunch in Rome, and we got to London in the evening. And we were all between 18 years and 19 years of age, and we were thoroughly excited going out there. Major Jayathilaka, who was with us, was like our guardian, and he looked after us in the sense that a parent would look after, because he thought we were too young to be left alone, but that's another story. So we went to London. London High Commission was poorly staffed. Oh no, I wouldn't say poorly, yes. There were only few officers, and the High Commission was at Grosvenor Square. Grosvenor Square was, all the embassy, whole of the square was taken by the United States of America. We had one corner where Sri Lankan embassy was. And the High Commissioner at that time was Sir Oliver Guruthilaka, and the Deputy High Commissioner was Sir Velupulli Kumaraswamy. And we had and there's one secretary called Jayawardena. A Jew, he gets the name from. The initials were JEW. He was our liaison officer, took us around, and we did our first course in Mons, then we went to Sandhurst, and Sandhurst was 18 months. At Sandhurst we were put in different colleges and different companies. We were split. We come together on weekends, we come together sometimes for combined classes. But 18 years of fairly strenuous training. I would say fairly strenuous training. We did all kinds of things, just not military subjects. We did academic subjects, and then we learned driving, we learned skiing, all kinds of sports. It's a very interesting time we had. I don't want to dwell too much on that time we spent at Sandhurst. It is very, I don't think you can have that type of training and that type of life anywhere else. We're very fortunate, and we all of us benefited by it, and it stood us in good stead later in life. And so there were 3 colleges there: the Old College, New College, and Victory College, and each college had different companies. So I was in the Old College. So we passed out on, as I said, we went to Sandhurst January 1950 and we passed out August 2nd, 1951. And we returned soon thereafter. But one interesting thing we did while at Sanders was, four of us took a trip to Europe. That four of us, that's myself, Dennis Pereira, Nimal Jayakodi and Ramanathan. We bought ourselves a car and for £100 and went across from Harwich in England to the Hook of Holland in Rotterdam, and from Holland we toured Belgium, went to France, went to Luxembourg, went to Germany, went to Italy, came back through Austria again, back to France and to England. So that was the trip we did. It took us 5 weeks. We had 6 weeks of vacation. So that was by the side, but we learned a lot. It was an interesting time. We were 19 years old at that time and it was a brave adventure. That side, on the military side, so we came back to Sri Lanka. 4 of us of the 10, 4 were posted with the infantry. And there was only one regiment, one infantry battalion. Not even one, there was only one company of the infantry battalion formed. Maybe 1.5. One was headquarter company and A company or Alpha company. So we had full A company and half of headquarter company. That was all that was formed at that time when we returned. And the CO was Lieutenant Colonel Vijay Kuhn, and we were housed at Echelon Square. Today it doesn't exist.